Welcome to the video. This video brought to you in part by Dunkin' Donuts. They don't pay me or anything, but I wouldn't say no if they ever actually do decide to sponsor me. So just in case, I really enjoy the smooth, bold taste of an original blend medium roast cup of Dunkin' Donuts coffee while creating the latest top-tier niche content for you guys. So for the finest cheap cup of coffee you can buy in mass production, America runs on Dunkin'. If you enjoy this video and like to see more, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. This video is combining two things I have an interest in: pop culture media and military analysis. The question is, what would happen if the contemporary United States of America was given a United Nations Space Command Smart AI from the Halo universe? As many people know, the Americans are currently militarily the most powerful individual nation globally. However, in this modern age of cyber warfare, they are faced with many powerful rivals in this space. Russia, China, minor world powers such as Iran and North Korea, as well as numerous criminal groups with or without ties to any or all of them, are all challenging the contemporary US in the cyber domain. Because of this, the United States has created many organizations and subcommands of the military to combat these new enemies, such as the United States Cyber Command, or the NSA, to help effectively compete in this new military domain. These forces currently have their hands full as the cyber arms race heats up and the world enters the information warfare age. Next, we will examine the UNSC Smart AI. The United Nations Space Command is the main government of humanity in the Halo universe that sponsors and commands much of their advanced technology, such as the AI themselves. Originally created in the mid-21st century, by the late 26th century of the main Halo timeline, the AI had been optimized by the scientist Catherine Halsey and were incredibly advanced in all facets of electronic systems and processing. They could even be integrated with a human host such as Spartan John 117 and Cortana by the first Halo game, while the UNSC also have dumb AI that are programmed with a single task in mind, such as managing a hangar or being a history teacher. A smart AI is capable of learning and growing similar to an actual human. Part of this is because of their creation method. The seed of a smart AI is the brain of a human that is destructively scanned to create the basis of the AI, which then goes through and optimizes the neural network to achieve the amazing intelligence and processing power of a smart AI. However, because of this, a smart AI is subject to rampancy, where after a certain period of operations, usually 7 years, the neural network becomes so complex and interconnected that the smart AI goes insane, developing emotions and getting caught in the endless logic loops or similar undesirable side effects, causing them to think themselves to death, as the short circuits cause them to begin severing neural links more and more desperately just to be able to function. However, even with the risk of emotions and developing a god complex, causing them to turn on humanity, even most rampant smart AI continue to show loyalty to humanity as a whole, with many self-terminating their processes before rampancy makes them a risk to their human creators. How would a smart AI benefit the contemporary US? In a number of massive ways. The first is by vastly boosting the information technology of the United States. With their broad knowledge bases and incredible processing capability, a smart AI would be able to rapidly bring the US up to a similar IT level as the Halo universe. In Halo, there are many smart AI that are dedicated solely to research for this very reason, such as Dr. Halsey's personal smart AI assistants. Second, AI can operate within the world's networks themselves, giving the US a super soldier to fight on the front cables for them directly. Finally, smart AI are able to learn and adjust their tactics, and while one may be able to help the Americans create another generation, they would certainly have no enemy peers, making them practically undetectable and certainly undefeatable on the cyber battlefields given modern tech levels. What type of smart AI would arrive then? There are many generations, types, and grades of smart AI in the UNSC. The most powerful for these purposes would be a 5th generation electronic warfare military smart AI. The least powerful would be a 1st generation agricultural civilian AI. There are countless variations, with some civilian AI co-opted for military use, and some military-grade AI used outside of their program specialities, such as Dr. Halsey using one of her research AI to run infiltration missions on the Office of Naval Intelligence computer systems. Cortana, the primary AI character you interact with in the Halo games, was a military third-generation electronic warfare AI whose donor brain was actually based on the highly illegal flash cloning of the brain of Dr. Halsey herself. Smart AI can run everything from UNSC warships to factories or bases. Since there is no real standard AI to give, and all are able to accomplish tasks outside their core specialities with imperceptibly reduced efficiency to a human, we will assume that the AI the contemporary US receives is a standard third-generation UNSC military warship command AI. What would be the first thing the US did with the AI? The US would almost immediately begin study of it. Due to the contemporary discussion surrounding the ethics and risks of AI in the current world, the AI would likely immediately become highly classified and hidden from the world for national security reasons. After briefings from the AI itself on capabilities and things such as rampancy, UNSC laws regarding AI, etc., the US would likely immediately dedicate the AI to creating more smart AI. As things such as manufacturing would take time to update production lines and technology issues would have to be ironed out, the US would begin its first offensive uses on the AI in the downtime. One of the best ways shown in the Halo universe to delay rampancy is to constantly keep the AI occupied with high-level tasks. Juliana, the smart AI in charge of the rubble, was long past her service life. However, the constant and ever-changing nature of the collected asteroid habitat demanded her high level of processing. With no replacements on hand, this forced the humans to keep her online well past where rampancy had set in, and the complex calculations and focus on her human charges kept the ancient, smart AI from the majority of the negative side effects of rampancy. In fact, the only real symptom that she displayed of rampancy was considering herself the goddess of the rubble, and even then she was willing to sacrifice her domain to save the people themselves. As the first and only smart AI in the world, it is certain that the US AI would have its hands full constantly, which might possibly buy it a few more years of safe service life. How would our smart AI go on the offensive then? First, by its nature, the AI can follow the flow of the web. Unlike humans, it has the processing power to chug through the entirety of our current internet in minutes, meaning it can cut through the noise and begin analyzing the entirety of the net itself. Unlike our current, very basic AI technology, it also has the intuition of a human, meaning it can begin to sort through and organize all of the data into useful sets. Out of curiosity or its assigned mission, it would begin to create a map of all the hackers, private and state-sponsored, and begin to infiltrate their networks. Despite the security precautions they may take, these all have contemporary hackers and basic AI in mind, meaning within a week the AI could have a complete map of the entire world's web and all of its malicious actors. The AI would be smart enough and patient enough to completely cover its tracks in these efforts, with no large data offloads to find even after the fact through logs. These shadowing operations would then likely continue for a while, with the information being passed and sanitized through to US hacking groups and organizations. This would allow the US to begin counter-operations and data mining without relying solely on the AI, which would both help keep the AI secret and allow the data to begin to be more openly used, since the other groups would likely know they were hacked at this time. The AI would be scraping everything, then the human US hackers could be directed to recover, quote-unquote, the usable data, without revealing even to the US hackers that they already had a copy of it. What would the US need to do to keep the AI secret? Not all that much, really. The US already has a massive amount of information technology infrastructure in place and publicly acknowledged. While there are certainly even more spread out that the AI could use, even the public data centers are still controlled environments. With no idea that a true AI even exists, and the AI able to hide its own tracks, there would be almost zero risk of detection. Having seen the effects of the AI in action, any actual discussions about it would likely only be in person in highly secured and electronics-free environments, or at minimum via electronics directly secured by the smart AI itself. With very few people who could even tell that the AI exists, and a new highly classified program being created to serve as the source of any information sent to the US hackers, the AI itself would be the final and almost ultimate secrecy factor. Unlike the contemporary world, where once information is released onto the net, it becomes immortal, the AI would have the ability to real-time monitor and sweep for any and all information about itself, and either rewrite or erase it forever. What about cyber defense then? Nation-states like Russia and China are constantly attempting to infiltrate US public and private information technology resources to steal things like intellectual property specifications or national secrets. While the AI would likely be capable of leading an absolute defense of the entire nation's IT infrastructure, this would likely be counterproductive to the actual goals of secrecy and US cyber dominance. If suddenly everything was inaccessible with no explanation, the hacking groups would likely rapidly begin trying to figure out why. While smart AI from a video game franchise set in the future would not likely be considered as one of the options, a true AI likely would, and the fact alone that something changed would in and of itself be very useful information. Much more likely, the AI would instead monitor for infiltration, protecting key files from detection, or possibly modifying the contents of those files to ensure the information is not as damaging. More active measures may also be taken, such as the AI altering the hacking tools of the IT system itself so that the hacks trigger warnings and allow the hack to be detected by the traditional methods in real time. The goal would less be an absolute defense than letting the usefulness of the hacks begin to fade away naturally. This, combined with public statements by the US about cyber defense as a top priority, would likely allow a vastly improved defense without hacking organizations realizing the true extent to which they are being secretly hurting. What would the final results for the contemporary US be then? Depending on the success of the AI in replicating its own creation process, the US could certainly become the dominant cyber power in the world for the rest of time. With such a massive advantage as smart AIs and exclusive control of the supply, they would be able to control cyberspace at will. Smart research AI and other specialties could be created, allowing the technology to rapidly advance on its own natural development cycles centuries ahead of the rest of the world. If the AI could not reproduce the next generation, the US would still have a massive advantage for decades to come. Many technology tools are iterative, not innovative, with refinement of old tools much more common than the creation of brand new ones. With access to all of its rivals' tools up to the rampancy and eventual death of the smart AI, the US would be the world leader in cyberspace, aside from any IT advances that the AI made itself. The AI could also be ordered as a final task to develop new hacking tools by the decade for the US to progress naturally to, maintaining their edge. Since we selected a smart UNSC warship AI, it could also greatly enhance other sectors such as power and weaponry, since those datasets would be ones carried by such an AI. Magnetic accelerator cannons, fusion reactors, advanced thrusters and sensors would all be things that the AI could help develop and research in its quote-unquote free time, and would be things that the AI would likely have an in-depth knowledge of given its nature. While a Halo-style Shaw Fujikawa slipspace drive may be beyond reach for the first AI alone, subsequent AI may be able to develop a working model or similar faster-than-light travel within a few AI generations, so about 30 years. The contemporary US in particular, and the world in general, would see a rapid technological advancement, leaping ahead centuries in just mere decades. Thank you for watching, everybody. Again, if you like these videos and would like to see more, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have someone you think would really enjoy seeing these videos, please share it with them. While I'd much rather live in a world where content speaks purely for itself, this is not the world of current YouTube. With this type of niche content, the only way anyone that would enjoy seeing it would get to see it is if viewers like you engage and share with it. Again, thank you for watching.